Shalom, welcome to Out of Africa Torah Session. My name is Tatra Cohen, and this week we are on Parashat 2, and it is Noach or Noah, coming from the book of Genesis, chapter 6, from verse 9 all the way to 11:32. I usually like to read just briefly to find what is being discussed or said in this very one. Allow me to read the first few verses. It says in my complete Jewish Bible here, "Here is the history of Noach. In his generation, Noach was a righteous man and wholeheartedly. Noach walked with God. Noach fathered 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth was corrupt before God. The earth was filled with violence." Hamas. Violence is Hamas, as you can all read from your Bibles. "God saw that the earth, and yes, it was corrupt, for all living beings had corrupted their ways on the earth." Now, in that context, which is being said, the corruption of the earth, the Torah accurately describes the way of the life of the people of the day, their technology in building, the successes, the unity, and all this which they had. According to some, we are told that the tower which is being famously said in this narrative was said to have 7 stories, and with a height of about 300 plus feet high. You can tell it was a massive structure. It demanded some attention. Eventually it did got the attention of the heaven. Now we see that in this Torah portion, it mainly talks about the sin of the people of Babel, who were building also the Tower of Babel and the city of Babel and so forth. Their sin was somewhat not ordinary. Of course, we have heard the sins of other cities later on, like Nineveh, the sins of or the city which was built by Cain and built on violence, the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah and their sin and so forth. But this particular city and the people thereof do not really look like they were sinners, and the sin which is being mentioned is rather unique, as we shall see. I would like to read briefly again on chapter 11 from verse 3. It says, "They said to one another, 'Come, let's make bricks and bake them in the fire.' So they had bricks for building, stone and clay for mortar. Then they said again to each other, 'Come, let's build ourselves a city with a tower that has its top reaching up to the heavens, so that we can have a name for ourselves.'" Now you are beginning to see the narrative, a name for ourselves. Well, you could say they were selfish. They were not very selfish. They were doing this as a community, but the name to ourselves. And finally they say, "so that we will not be scattered all over the earth." Now this looks like a very innocent suggestion or community idea, some social work, but unfortunately these things, they're actually in contrast to what the Torah presents to us, beginning on what was even said before the giving of the Torah to our father Adam. "You shall fill the earth," and meaning you shall be scattered all over for you to be able to fill the earth. But then these guys here in Babel, they had a different mindset. So the Torah sees these 3 as offenses committed, as we have seen in the narrative of Parashat Noach. Number 1, we make a name for ourselves. Names are given, usually not made for oneself. Like, I want to make my name, or I want to give myself a name. That sounds a bit wrong. But you would be given a name, which is good. Like when you're born, you're given a name. You go through Brit Milah, you're also given a name. Several ways we're given names, but not making a name for yourselves. There is some catch there to make a name for yourselves. This is not different from the modern day cultism, like many sects who have become cults, especially in the church or in the name of believing, where the worship, the church itself, the structure, the belief, and everything in it is centered on an individual, or maybe in the groups of individuals, than on God or on the Torah. I like my organization where I am serving God from. And as much as we talk, we interact, we have staff members and so forth, we always refer each other to God. That way you are safe from being a cult. So these guys, let's make a name for ourselves. Everything that we need to do should not be centered on ourselves, but it should be centered on heaven. Unfortunately, this became the model of what we see today. And according to our rabbis, this is actually the model of what shaped what is known as idolatry, making something for yourself. The second offense that these guys also had was they said, let's make a tower that reaches to heaven. What did they mean by that? They wanted something that would remove the distinction, or that would bridge the distinction between heaven and earth. It's okay to bring heaven on earth, like we hear the word became flesh and dwelt amongst men. That was more like heaven on earth. But for you to make heaven and earth one, there is now another case. No wonder today we hear people promising each other, you cannot be sick, you cannot be what if you're a child of God. Please, while we are here on earth, there are certain things we shall continue to experience. We shall experience hunger, famine, wars, rumors of wars, all those things. We are here on earth. But these guys, the Torah condemned them because they wanted to make something that would reach heaven, meaning there won't be any difference between heaven and earth. In other words, they wanted to merge the two, to destroy the distinction between heaven and earth. Yet these people wanted to mix these two. No wonder their language was confused, so that they should not be successful in bringing the two together. In other words, God wanted always to have separation between that which is holy and that which is common. And that is what we see in this narration. Finally, our rabbis tells us that the builders desired not to be scattered all over the place. This is it's kind of like a good idea. I say, guys, let's come together so we can have ABCD, so that we are not scattered. Of course, most of us today, we are tempted to have the same thing. And God, the Torah, sees this to be a problem. They were supposed to be scattered so that they can be a blessing to whoever they shall meet in their scattering. Just like the Jewish people today. In almost every country there is a Jew. And guess what? They serve as a conduit, as the source of light in those very places. Just like any believer, wherever you are. I like the words of the Messiah who prayed and said, I pray that you do not remove them from the earth, but while they are on the earth, you may protect them. So of course, this was a direct contrast to the instruction that God had given to Adam and the sons of Noach, those the ones we read about. The Bible says the entire earth was populous from these very three individuals. So being scattered was a blessing in disguise, and they were supposed to go through it. Now, based on these three offenses, our rabbis tells us that the polytheism beliefs was born from there, or the doctrine of having numerous divine or gods came actually from that. Rulers were then seen as semi-divine, like, oh, you have someone who is closer to God, and then you have another person, and so forth. That became a challenge. And you see, that gave birth to the philosophy of hierarchy. No wonder what we have today. It's like this civilization, which we sometimes think came as a blessing, also was considered a curse according to our sages in light of what happened to the city of Babel and the Tower of Babel and the people of Babel themselves. No wonder to this day life is seen in the eyes of masses, not individuals. Like people want to judge you on how important are you to the masses. What is your role among the masses? Not who are you as an individual. In other words, you against the masses is the norm or the talk of the day today. Hence the appetite for many, especially who became influential, the appetite to colonize, to control, to rule, and so forth. You can name it. Babel became the model of what is known in the present day civilization, which gave birth to violence, Hamas, as we have seen. And also together with Hamas comes corruption. Violence and corruption always goes hand in hand. It seems there are always issues with the city life. No wonder our patriarchs, our forefathers have always, if you read about Avraham Avinu, Yitzchak and Yaakov, they always found themselves out of the city. And in that place, in those places where they were, they managed to hear the voice of their God, away from corruption, away from violence, away from Hamas. And you also remember Sodom and Gomorrah. No wonder this story, our rabbis relate to the similar events that happened in Sodom and Gomorrah, when the violence of the people reached heaven. But amid such violence, Noah was able to hear the voice of his Creator, which is what you can do again. In the midst of what's happening now, you are still able to hear the voice of your Creator and make a distance. Are you going to join the masses in building a name for yourselves, in making a name for yourselves, in bringing confusion between heaven and earth, in merging the two, bringing no distinction between the holy and unholy, between the sacred and the common? Or you be like Noah, who chose to follow the small voice of his Creator? Thank you.